Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a special board meeting of June 23rd, 2020 of the Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District Board of Trustees. For everyone's edification, this meeting has been called and was noticed on the afternoon of Monday, June 20th, I believe. Yes. Well ahead of the meeting. And the meeting was prompted by a notice given by the governor of California relating to the return of students to district classrooms throughout the state. It's time to read the civility statement. When conducting the district's business, we will strive to communicate clearly and concisely with respect for the time of others. Listen objectively, carefully considering the opinions of others. Understand the counterproductive effects of disruptive, demeaning, and intimidating behaviors. Understand and respect district policies and procedures. And maintain a respect for the rich history of the district and the efforts of others who have served in the past. Moving on, item 3A, public comments on any agendized item. We're giving people the opportunity to buzz in at this point and make public comments regarding an agendized item. Is anyone texting in or beeping or... While we're waiting and giving people that opportunity, I want to remind everyone that there's certain etiquette that goes with board meetings. These virtual meeting platforms give people opportunity to have chats and to speak with each other. Now, typically what that looks like in a board meeting is I might be over here whispering to someone else. We might be discussing something, asking for clarification from another person, or we may be texting someone, I didn't understand that, and that's all fine. Just as I wouldn't get up in a board meeting and go out into the audience and say, hey, what are you guys talking about? Does that have any context? The chat that goes on sometimes is everybody's ability to say what they feel and want. It's a public forum. But again, there are rules of decor, and I wouldn't take challenges against people as individuals or snide comments or things that are off track. Don't expect me to recognize those in chat, but I do want to make sure that anyone who has the desire to speak to the board on this very important item, where I work, some people don't care where I work. Well, it's kind of important to me because it's where my paycheck comes from. But in addition to that, we have a pretty good process over there. And what we do, and I strongly suggest that someone consider this, is we hear what the city manager wants to talk about and introduce, and that is the equivalent of Larry here. Then we'll hear some comments from the city council as to what their questions are as the decision makers voted in by the public that they represent. And then, once the public is informed as to what they're thinking and which road they're headed down, that sometimes is the best time to make your comments before any vote or action is taken. Now, of course, if there's something that you're not hearing that is critical to you as a constituent, that the staff or the people you elect to sit up here aren't representing, of course, you want to jump in and make sure that we know that, because decisions, especially at this time, everyone needs to be fully informed. So that said, is there anyone that wants to make a comment about the agendized item, which will be item 4, 2021 COVID-19 industry guidance, school and school-based programs? The document was released by the governor's office on July 17th, 2020. Hearing none, I'll ask one of the board members You know what, let's just go ahead and move this in so we all understand that the board members want to hear this and discuss this. All right, everyone, we're back at 7:03. All I can do is apologize for any of you that saw what popped up on the screen. The fault here is that we try to unmute everyone to make sure that you're heard as part of a public process. So, that said, be ready if someone tries to cut in again, we'll kill it immediately, and we'll just keep doing this the best way we can. Our intentions are nothing but the best. We start off in the discussion of item 4A, the only item on the agenda, 2020-21 COVID-19 Industry Guidance School and School-Based Programs, a date of a document released by the Governor's Office, July 17th, 2020. Our superintendent began to introduce this topic, and he'll continue to do that now by starting over. Board members, bear with me for just a second here. I want to remind everyone, if you've just joined us, we had a little incident a little bit earlier. The first thing I want to say is that some people understand technology to the point where they can jump on, try to make a comment, and let us know what's happening. And if you saw names or a name jumping up there, I can assure you that there are people that attend these meetings that have been attending these meetings for years and have been highly involved in the district. And we should not extrapolate because they're jumping on the screen to say, hey, there's something very wrong here, that they had anything to do with this unfortunate incident. So if you see hear something or see something, do not jump to conclusions, because you may be offending some of the district's strongest supporters for periods of decades. Before we turn it over to the board members, I want to remind everyone that we're in active negotiations with our employees, and so if you're asking particular specific questions about what you can expect the instruction to look like and that type of thing, I would suggest that you attend the August 8th meeting, because we're not going to be answering questions about what the teachers are going to do and giving them directives on what they're going to do before they decide as credentialed professionals and given the circumstance what they are capable of doing to deliver a measured result. Callie, I very much appreciate it that you hold the position you hold in a large district, and you are actually responsible for supporting the curriculum of 18,000 students. So I'm so glad you're here to help us. And Tim, your experience as a teacher in the district with the very practical questions that sometimes people forget about until the day comes, those types of things are potential exposures just waiting to happen. So if they're thought out ahead of time, that's good. Brandon, I appreciate your support, and the superintendent. That's very, very important right now. I'm going to go through this document. We're monitoring the chat. For my fan club out there, thank you. I appreciate that. I know that sometimes the examples I give about where I work and that type of thing don't seem to be relevant, but I'm going to turn back to some of that in my experience. And just as Callie is an experienced educator, I am an experienced facilities manager and manage a program. So I'm going to tie into some things that I'm a little bit ahead of this in the organization I work for and have seen some of the positives, the negatives, and some of the complete failures. So I'm going to go through this document that the governor's office gave us on the 17th. And I want to remind everyone, the discussion tonight is if you're expecting to walk out of here knowing which model we're picking, how long we're going to be on the computer, and those types of things. I see comments like that coming in. I understand your apprehension as a parent. But remember, we have teachers and staff out there that are waiting for a direction, a positive direction. And you just heard Kelly say that their district was ready to roll out 3 programs and had it figured out how to do that, and then suddenly the rug gets yanked. So if you're expecting specific answers to things tonight, I will make a comment to that at the end, but there will be no discussion of specifics of who's going to be in what classroom, and now we're just not there yet, and I appreciate your patience. But let's go through this document. I'm going to start off on page 5. If we go down to the second paragraph of the light-colored bullet point, it says that we're going to adhere to these guidelines because a failure to do so could result in workplace illnesses that may cause classrooms or an entire school to be temporarily closed or limited. That means if you drop the ball here and you have an outbreak or a case, and I've seen this happen at my place of employment, there are people who have been exposed to someone and suddenly they're not allowed back in the workplace. And so I've seen entire divisions shut down while everybody's waiting for tests to come back. I want you to think about the magnitude of what that would mean to a school or a classroom. And unless you've got those kids in those classrooms being escorted out in a bubble every day, there's exposures here. But this is probably the biggest warning in this document. Adhere to these guidelines, for failure to do so could result in workplace illnesses that may cause classrooms or the entire school to be temporarily closed or limited. And once they close you down, the likelihood they're going to open you back up right away is, I think, very limited. Going back down the page a little bit, we come to 3 more light-colored bullet points. These are typically our students with IEPs. We come to great ways in campus culture and social health to have kids running around being said, well, that one right there, why don't they have to do one? And then we've got one here, individuals who may not be able to communicate symptoms of illness. So we're going to give them a free ride because they don't have the cognitive capacity. In the case of my nonverbal child, who is also cognitively limited, oh, well, she doesn't have to do that because, well, we all know what her problem is, and this promotes tribalism and sorting of people, and that's one thing that I despise more than anything. And I think that our parent groups on the sites have been working very hard for inclusion, not only at their specific sites, but as you go from one site to the next. So I'm going to say this, and it's going to probably get me in trouble, and I don't care. I'm not here to make the COVID cowboys happy. I see people walking by me where I work not wearing a mask, and they're trying to message me something. I don't know what your message is. I don't want my kids sick. So I see this all the time where people are just either one side they're wearing masks and everyone in the whole world has to have one, or I'm not wearing a mask because I'm that kind of tough guy that came out of the Texas oil fields. Well, I got a mask on and I came out of the last one. Let's go to page 6. Promote healthy hygiene practices, and this is all about what the kids will do, and it says staff should and students should. I have yet to have, out of my 5 kids, have one that at 16 years old, I did not have to ask them, did you brush your teeth yet today? But we're going to go through this microscopic hand washing and sanitation exercise. It's the equivalent of going into a HAZWOPER site at an EPA Superfund nuclear disaster. Some of this is just not practical. So why is it in here? Well, I'll get to that in the end. Okay, there's face coverings. So I look at your face covering. Oh, you're 2 years old. You're somewhere in between there. But the rest of you, at 3rd grade, I'm going to be pointing out to kids that's in 2nd grade saying, hey, why don't they have to do this? And some kids, I won't name one because I don't have a mirror right in front of me, found their identity by being a punk at school and being non-compliant. So what this looks to me is like, I'm going to give people an opportunity to sort each other, and then I just pull down my mask and I hijack the whole class while the teacher's trying to put me back in my mask. I'm going to cover what the teachers are supposed to do here in a minute. Let's go down to where it says staff on page 8. All staff must use face coverings in accordance with these guidelines. Any questions about that? That means if you are a staff member in this district, you will wear a face covering at all times. You get out of your car in the parking lot, you return when it comes back. I hope there are no questions, because some of the things I've seen over the summer in some of the newspapers suggest to me that if we're going to sell this to the parent groups and the public, then we better be practicing ourselves, and I see a lack of uniformity, so hopefully that will be corrected soon. Next page, 9. Forgive me, I'm breathing my own carbon monoxide, and that doesn't tend to be a good thing. Ensure teacher and staff safety. I want you to think about that. So I'm going to sit out here, and I'm going to tell everybody what I want, But I've got professionals that are credentialed, that went to college, that know what to do, that are used to taking classrooms of 20, 30, 35, 40 kids and trying to reach them as individuals, and they're going to be worried about whether or not they're going to get sick, and they're just going to be mandated into a room because I need daycare while I go to work in LA every day. That's not responsible. I'll get to the teachers at the end. So now, 5, intensify cleaning, disinfection, and ventilation. Okay. I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but some people have bonds, and those bonds are meant to keep facilities bright and spiffy and modernized and to add things that we might need to add. And when you don't have that type of thing, you go into your budget that's for maintenance, and you do projects with maintenance. And in fact, at the last board meeting of the school year, there was a project list that was very clear about what we were going to do and not do. And on there, I didn't see a retrofit for COVID shields and screens and hand sanitizing stations and all those types of things. So if your budget is for X, and the governor does not say, here, we're going to ramp you up with some funding ahead of time to make sure your schools are ready to rock and roll and you can protect your students the best way you can, then I don't know how we're going to take a budget that we're struggling with already and make all these modifications. Something will fall off the map. And when things start falling off the map and there's no clear direction and a prioritized list of what types of things are going to happen, and when you start dropping through the cracks, and the next thing you know, you've got kids that are sick or perceived sick or something else. So this very much concerns me. As an ops person myself, what I look for in my line item budget is I look for an association of tasks, maintenance frequencies, and the number of people it takes to do those reasonably. So if you go where I work and look at the specifications on the job site, it will tell you what needs to be done, at what frequency, at what area square footage you're taking care of, or how big something is, or what the unit price is. And that's extrapolated to a position control. And I've been pushing for that ever since I've been on this board. So when they give you facilities reports, they're not just bragging about what the janitors are doing, they're actually being responsive to the board's request to be informed about how positions are budgeted and how they're tied back to maintenance frequencies and tasks. Now all of a sudden, I barely got enough staff. There is. I don't see people sitting around in gaiters hiding behind the high school while I'm driving down the freeway. So I think our staff is kept busy by Mr. Moore and his team and overseen and budgeted by our financial director, Ms. David. But I didn't ever hear them tell me they had an abundance of staff. So now we're going to take and not only increase frequencies, so we're going to lose those efficiencies we're talking about of I'm putting 40 kids on a bus. Now I'm going to make 3 trips with the same bus at different times. I need different drop-offs. I need different people. So I'm going to increase the task frequency by 300%, but I'm going to keep the same staff. That doesn't add up where I come from. Let's go to page 10. One of the problems we have at work is everybody needs to be individual. So I want to use isobutylidine diarrhea to sanitize my hands. My friend over here, that's a sulfur-coated urea product, by the way, Kelly. I can see you wondering. Then I want to use isopropylene something or other, 70%. I got other people using 90%, and we're wondering why there's a problem. And other employees are going, I don't know what that person is using. Do you have an MSDS sheet on what that product is? So we're getting caught up in all this. There's no standardization. And that's one of the most important things is, do we have a standardized, back to Tim's point, do you have a standardized product that has an MSDS sheet in a sanitizing station at the front door of the school today, along with a manual that tells you, you will do this or you will not enter the site? Now, I doubt that all that's done, because we're probably too busy trying to figure out how to increase 3 bus trips when we used to have 1, with no budget to do that, by the way. Implementing distance inside and outside the classroom. Again, we have loss of efficiencies, but someone is turning around to take a political out to say, oh, you're a small district, So what do you really think the likelihood of this person that's offering these what do you call them? Waivers. Oh yeah, you out there in Acton, yeah, you're good to go, but the rest of y'all, nah, you're not good to go. Really think about that. I know politics enough to know that, well, only I would make a decision like that. Classroom space. All these rules on page 12 of what the teacher's going to do. This is hurting. This is not education. This is hurting. This is hurting of people. And again, all I got to do to be the cult hero is take my mask off, be unresponsive to the teacher, have all these other kids exposed, and then I am going to further make this more about hurting. Are we going to buy cattle dogs and blue healers and stuff to help the teachers out to make sure the kids stay in their desk with their mask on? I don't know. But there are compliance issues here that we're going to arbitrarily tell our teachers, hey, now you're a prison guard, now you do this. No, I don't see that happening. Non-classroom spaces, axillary groups. I can talk about this one all day long. So we're going to bring people in. The minute you open up the campus and put the public on there, when you are an employee, you have certain mandates that you follow. I cannot choose to have the temperature gun put to my head every morning and have a witness read it. I can choose to refuse to do that. I can choose to go home. I can choose to burn up the vacation, sick leave, and comp time or whatever I have that you can go to Transparent California, find out how much I have on there today. And once that's gone, I am relieved of my employment. But within that is not a means for me to have some club come in and use the gym for something, and then I become their police and responsible for their whatever they do. And then on top of that, at the end, assuming there's no problem there, again, I take my already with nothing to do staff, I'm being facetious, to have another cleaning of the entire facility yet again. That makes no sense. Train all staff, and now we're on page 14. We're going to train all staff and educate families. That sounds like a Hallmark card to me. Again, I have yet to see uniformity from site to site in staff members understanding by example. That means I have a signed staff memorandum that says, I understand this, and I will do this, and I will adhere to this. From what I've seen over the past couple months, I think we're still trying to figure that out. Once we get our staff to understand that that is what the protocol is, then we start telling the public what they're going to do and be faced with the herd of COVID cowboys that are too cool to wear a mask. I don't know what to say about that. I guess one of the ones that I'm just looking at here is just ridiculous. Bottom of page 14. Implement screening and other procedures for all staff and students entering the facilities. What does that mean? Are you taking temperatures? What exactly does this mean? What does it entail? There is no information as to exactly what you're supposed to do. And that's probably the weakest part of this, is we're not going to tell you what the mandates are so people can talk about them and decide what they're going to do and not do. But yet, going back to the very beginning in the little bullet point, it says if you have a problem that we're going to shut your school down. This is ridiculous.